Greetings to everyone. One of the most critical part of running a business is to make sure that you adhere to the existing laws and regulation within the state. Hence, it is very important to be familiarized with this as soon as you have started a business and ensure that you are operating in compliance with these regulations and necessary reporting to be done so as to not have any sanction or penalties from the respective authorities. Through this webinar, we aim to provide an overview of these regulations and their impact on businesses operating in the UAE, and how AMCA, as one of the most promising business consultants in the UAE, can assist you and prepare a plan for your business in staying in line with this regulatory compliance and reporting. Along with me is Ms. Mariam and Mr. Muhammad Shari, who will be joining us in addressing your queries relating to our topic for today. So, as usual, the first half of the webinar will be for the discussion of the regulatory compliance and reporting in the UAE. You may drop your questions on the chat box below, and it would be addressed on the latter part or the Q&A session. So for this week, for the regulatory compliance reporting in UAE, we will be focusing on three regulatories, which is the economic substance regulations, the GoAML system, and the ultimate beneficial owner. Generally, we will be discussing the entities that would be subject on this compliance, their obligations, and necessary reportings and deadlines to be met. Sorry, please let me know if the voice is still breaking. Okay. So we will now proceed to the first topic, which focuses on economic substance regulations, or the ESR. As part of the UAE's commitment as a member of the OECD, or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Inclusive Framework, and in response to an assessment of the UAE's tax framework by the European Union Code of Conduct Group of Business Taxation, the UAE has issued the Economic Substance Regulation through Cabinet of Minister Resolution number 31 of 2019. So this was introduced on 30th of April 2019, which aims to combat harmful tax practices while complying with the global standard. So the economic substance regulations are issued pursuant to the global standards set by the OECD Forum on Harmful Tax Practices, which requires entities undertaking any of the identified relevant activities to maintain and demonstrate an adequate economic presence in the UAE relative to the activities or the relevant activities that they undertake. So this is what they have quoted as meeting the economic substance test. So for the criteria on meeting the economic substance test, the licensee must conduct the necessary core income generating activity in the state, as well as the relevant activity that they are carrying out must be directed and managed in the state. Further to that, adequacy tests must also be met by these specific entities. So this refers to like adequate number of employees, adequate assets of the company, as well as adequate expenditure on the relevant year. So companies and establishments that are involved in relevant activities in the UAE are required to submit economic substance notifications and reports to the regulatory authority on an annual basis. So this should be in accordance with the provision of the Cabinet Resolution, which stipulates the submission of these notifications and report. So failure to adhere to the necessary notification and reportings to be done by these entities will result to fines, penalties, or sanctions. So as what you can see on the presentation, they have specified 9 relevant activities, which are the banking business, insurance business, investment fund management business, lease finance business, headquarter, shipping, holding company, intellectual property, distribution and service center business. So it is very important to know whether your company have undertake or is carrying out these 9 relevant activities that is specified on the cabinet decision. So basically for banking business refers to or may involve like raising of funds, managing of risks, including credit, currency, and interest risk. This could also include activities such as providing loans, credit, or other financial services to customers. On the other hand, for insurance businesses may involve predicting and calculating risk, insuring or reinsuring against risks, and providing insurance business to specific clients or customers that the business would be having. This could also include like underwriting insurance and reinsurance. The third relevant activity is the investment fund management, which undertake or provide discretionary investment fund management services, including like making investment, divestment, risk-related decision on behalf of an investment fund. So this could also include taking decisions on currency or interest fluctuations and hedging positions. The next relevant activity that the cabinet has specified is the lease finance businesses, which might involve agreeing to funding terms or identifying and acquiring assets to be leased in the case of leasing, or setting the terms and duration of any financing or leasing. So the definition of lease finance business encompasses licensees that offer credit or financing for any kind of consideration and includes financing to connected persons. Headquarter business is defined as businesses providing services to one or more foreign connected person. So this could be through provision of senior management or the assumption or control of material risk for activities carried out by or the assets owned by the foreign connected person. Shipping businesses, these are the businesses that operate one or more ships in international traffic. Please take note of that for the transport of either passengers, cargo, or boat. So this could also include like the sales of travel tickets or equivalent and ancillary services connected with the operation of the ship. Holding company businesses has two activities that they have specified as per the decision. Holding company has its sole function the acquisition and holding of shares or equitable interest in other companies, and these are the businesses that only earns dividends and capital gains from equitable interest. The eighth relevant activity that they have specified is the intellectual property businesses, which holds, exploits, or receives income from intellectual property assets. So intellectual property assets are intellectual property rights, which is intangible assets, including but not limited to copyrights, patents, trademarks, brand, and technical know-hows in the industries as well. So the last activity that they have specified is the distribution and service center businesses. This involves the purchasing from a foreign connected person component parts or materials for good or already ready to be sale goods and reselling such component parts, materials, or goods to or within the state. So on the other hand, for providing services to foreign connected person, it could include like consultancy or administrative services. As we have already defined the nine relevant activity, the cabinet decision have also specified the licensees which are considered to be exempted on this regulation. So certain entities conducting relevant activities are exempt from the requirement to maintain adequate economic substance in the UAE, subject to meeting certain conditions. So they have specified at least four conditions for a company to be considered as an exempted licensee. So the first one is the licensee must be an investment fund or must undertake an investment fund activity. A licensee that is a tax resident in a jurisdiction other than the state. Also, licensee wholly owned by a resident in the states that are not part of a multinational group and conducts business only in the UAE are considered as exempted licensee, as well as branch of foreign entities of income which is subject to tax in a jurisdiction other than the state. So an entity making an exemption claim is only required to file a notification along with the relevant documents for substantiating the claim for exemption. So where the exemption claim is denied, such an entity will be required to meet the economic substance test and further file for the economic substance report. So the necessary reportings to be done by businesses who's carrying out the relevant activities as I have discussed a while back are the submission of ESR notification and submission of ESR report. So the ESR notification must be submitted 6 months from the end of fiscal year. So on the other hand, for the report, it must be submitted 12 months from the end of fiscal year. So we have here on our presentation a table which can serve as your guide on the necessary deadlines that you have to meet depending on the financial year of the company. So for this month of May, for companies with financial year ending 30th of November 2022, they must submit the ESR notification until 31st of May 2023. Companies who have a financial year ending 31st of May 2022, on the other hand, must submit their ESR report until 31st of May or this month, 2023. So notification generally involves or includes relevant activity being carried out during the relevant financial year, the relevant income being generated on that activity, and any other information as may be requested by the regulatory authority. On the other hand, the ESR report shall be in the form and manner approved by the National Assessing Authority in coordination with the competent authority and shall include the following informations and document with respect to the licensee. So it could also include like the income and operating expenses, the place of businesses, employee and its qualification. Financial statement is also noted to be required for the ESR report, and declaration whether or not it satisfies the economic substance test based on the criteria that I have specified a while back. So as I have mentioned, for entities undertaking relevant activities, if they have failed to adhere or to submit either the ESR notification or ESR report, there would be certain penalties or fines that would be given to their company. So the fines would range from 20,000 AED up to 50,000 AED, depending to the non-compliance that they have done. So failure to submit notification before the deadline would incur 20,000 AED fine. If the licensee or accepted licensee provide inaccurate information to the regulatory authority, this would incur at least 50,000 AED. Failure to submit economic substance report would be the same amount of 50,000 AED. And if the licensee provides inaccurate information in the economic substance report as well, they might have a fine of AED 50,000. So we would now move on with the second regulatory compliance, which is the GoAML. The relevant publication for this one are the Federal Decree number 20 of 2018 on anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism, and Cabinet Decision number 10 of 2019 and Cabinet Decision number 24 of 2022. So the AML law requires the establishment of an independent financial intelligence unit or the UAE FIU within the central bank of the UAE. So this is to exclusively receive suspicious transaction reports and related information from all the financial institutions and the DNFBPs for consideration, analysis, and referral to the domestic competent authorities. So the GoAML system was developed by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes to combat money laundering and the financing of terrorism. So basically, it is an integrated digital platform through which the financial institutions, the DNFBP's occupations, and the relevant authorities can send suspicious transaction reports and suspicious activity reports to the FIU. So for the GoAML, we have what we called as the regulated entities. They have majorly categorized it into three, which are the financial institutions, the designated non-financial businesses and professions, or the DNFBPs, and the virtual asset service provider, or the VASP. So financial institutions are like banks, finance companies, exchange houses, money service businesses, including hawaladar, or other monetary value transfer services. This could also include like insurance companies, agencies and brokers, or securities and commodities brokers, dealers, advisors, or investment managers. The DNFBP, or the designated non-financial businesses and professional, on the other hand, have five activities, which is the real estate, brokers and real estate agents when they conclude operations for the benefit of their customers with respect to the purchase and sale of real estate. The dealers of precious metals and stone, if for example you are involved in the production of precious metals or precious stones. The third one is the company service provider or the corporate service provider. These entities are those performing or executing transaction on behalf of their customer in respect of, for example, providing company establishment or business administration services, like company or legal person set up, formation, providing third-party services, business administration, and business address services. Auditing and accounting firm would also fall under the DNFBPs, as well as the legal consultancy firm if your company conducts legal consulting activities only and is not pleaded in the judicial courts. The third one, or the newly added under the regulated entities, is the virtual asset service provider. So generally, these are any natural or juridical person who conducts any activities of commercial businesses which involves, like for example, exchange between one or more types of virtual assets, transfer of virtual assets, or saving or managing of virtual assets. So for the virtual asset service providers, this is specifically regulated by the VARA, or the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, wherein they have specified seven activities that could fall under the virtual assets as well. So these are the virtual asset advisory services, virtual assets broker and dealer services, custody services, exchange services in virtual asset, virtual asset lending and borrowing services, payment and remittances services in terms of virtual asset, as well as virtual asset management and investment services. So just an additional information with regards to virtual assets, actually the VARA have several compulsory rule books that they have to follow or comply with. So they have one specific rule books which is in relation to compliance of these VASPs, wherein they have specified compliance when it comes to books and records. So, as per the rule books, VAS shall keep their books and records properly in their original form or native file format, including as recorded on distributed ledgers where appropriate. So, they must keep the book and records for no less than 8 years. VASP shall also appoint an independent third-party auditor to perform an audit of the financial statement of the VASP in order to make available an annual report, which they have to submit as well to the regulatory authority. So for VAS, there's also periodic reporting of information that they must submit to VARA, like for example, financial statement, as well as several reportings related to GoAML that they have to notify to VARA and the FIU as well. So regulated authorities have specific obligations that they have to comply with according to the guidelines released by the respective authority. So the first step is they must register on the GoAML portal. After that one, DNFBPs or these unregulated entities are obliged to appoint a compliance officer with the appropriate competencies and experience to perform the statutory duties and responsibilities associated with like the reporting, managing of AML program, as well as training and development of employees within the entities. So the DNFBPs should also ensure that the policies and procedure controls must be implemented to manage and mitigate money laundering risk as seen reasonable, proportionate to the risk involved, and consistent with the rules of their business risk assessment. So for the AML policies and procedures, this would also include like undertaking the necessary due diligence measures and assessment of risks involved. So under normal circumstances, DNFBPs are obliged to undertake customer due diligence measures. This includes like verifying the identity of the customers, beneficial owner, beneficiaries, and controlling persons, either prior to or during the establishment of a business relationship or the opening of an account or prior to the execution of transaction for a customer with whom there is no business relationship yet. These regulated entities must also keep proper records and monitoring of these records. So DNFBPs are required to maintain the records in an organized fashion so as to permit data analysis and the tracking of financial authorities immediately upon request. So this kind of record must be kept for 5 years and must include both transaction records and records relating to the customer due diligence that was done specified on that specific transaction. So the fines and penalties for non-compliance as stipulated on Cabinet Decision number 16 of 2021 regarding the unified list of the violation and administrative fines for the said violations of measures to combat money laundering and terrorism may range from 50,000 AED to 1 million AED. So the last compliance that we would be tackling for today is the UBO, or the ultimate beneficial owner. The resolution covers the most updated requirement for the entities in UAE to disclose its real beneficiary or ultimate beneficial owner, which intends to enhance the transparency of the UAE registered entities. So the Cabinet Resolution number 58 of 2020 regulating the beneficial owner procedures came into effect on 28th of August 2020. And the resolution introduces new requirements for entities to disclose its beneficial owners for the main purpose of like enhancing transparency of entities registered in the UAE, as well as to develop effective and sustainable executive and regulatory mechanisms and procedures in respects of beneficial owner data. So this declaration can include like UBO register, partners or shareholder register, or nominee director register if applicable. This specific regulation shall apply to all licensed or registered legal persons in the state, including the commercial free zones, with the exceptions of companies which are wholly owned by the local or federal government, or any other companies wholly owned by such companies, and the financial free zones. So there are certain criteria on how you will be able to identify who's the real beneficial owner or who's the ultimate beneficial owner of the company. A beneficial owner can either control, owns the establishment definitively through direct or indirect ownership of 25% or more shares, or it could also be someone who owns 25% or more of the voting rights, or the right to appoint or dismiss the majority of its director. Also, it is not necessary for the beneficial owner to have any shares or any percentage right, as if you cannot identify the beneficial owner based on these two criteria, any natural person who holds the position of a higher management can also be considered as the real beneficial owner of the company. So the UBO declaration submission must be established or must be declared within 60 days from the date of acquiring the license of the company. On the other hand, any amendment must be notified as well to the respective authority. So the legal person who makes an amendment or change in data or any information required shall within 15 days of the date of making amendment or change notify the registrar. Okay, so depending on the violated provisions of the cabinet resolution concerning the regulation of beneficial owner procedure, the administrative penalties may range from written warning up to 100,000 AED. So it depends on which non-compliance a company would be committing to. To summarize our discussion for today, or these three compliances, we have prepared here a comparative information to for you to be more clear or precise on the concept of each regulatory compliance. So for ESR, basically the main objective of this regulatory compliance is to combat harmful taxes. GoAML, on the other hand, specifically focuses on anti-money laundering and combating of finance terrorism. So the UBO could come as like a support for GoAML and ESR, as it enhances the transparency of UAE registered entities. So the authority for the ESR is the Ministry of Finance. This is the competent authority for this. On the GoAML, we have the Central Bank of the UAE. So under that one, they have the Finance Intelligence Unit. VARA specifically is for VASPs, and the MOE is for DNFBPs. For UBO, this is usually declared, or the registrar is in the licensing authority. So for ESR, we have specified 9 relevant activities a while back. GoAML has specified regulated authorities, which are the financial institution, the DNFBPs, and the virtual asset service provider. UBO is applicable on all companies registered in UAE, with few exceptions, as I have discussed also. So for ESR, the covered entities or subjected entities have the obligations to do necessary notification to authority, as well as the reporting requirements. For GoAML, on the other hand, these regulated authorities must do registration first, implement AML CFT policies and controls within their company, and submit necessary reporting to the respective authority. So for the UBO, All companies must declare the beneficial owner or the register of beneficial owner to the licensing authority. So that's it for the discussion of the regulatory compliance and reporting in the UAE. You may now drop your questions on the message box and we will have it addressed after 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. To answer the first question from Mr. Luis, my business is make outside UAE, buying in Asia, selling in Europe and Latin America. All this information is linked with a free zone company. From what I understand, that you are producing outside of UAE, the purchases are from Asia, and you're selling outside of UAE as well, Europe or Latin America. Uh, to make it clear for you, first of all, if you're talking about ESR, we have to check whether any of these activities is falling within the relevant activity. For this information is not enough, and you need to make sure about that, because this is not like VAT, and the place of goods and all that rules are separate. So you have to check whether you are performing any of the relevant activities during the course of your business. Then yes, the ESR will be applicable to you. UBO anyway is applicable to all UAE registered companies, GoAML as well. If your trade license activity is within the scope of GoAML, you need the registration for GoAML and the implementation of all the relevant regulations as well. I hope that clarifies. The next question we have, Mr. Mayur. What is the definition of foreign connected persons? So, for connected persons, first of all, are any related parties as for the company. It is as per IFRS. So, all the related parties as defined in IFRS will be connected person. Foreign connected person means which are situated outside of UAE. So, all the related parties for the company which are situated outside of UAE are known as foreign connected persons. The next question is again from Mr. Mayur. If relevant activities are not carried out to do, if relevant activities are not carried out, do notification need to be filed every year? So first of all, you have to be sure that you did not conduct any relevant activity as per the ESR regulations. If no relevant activity is done and you do not fall within the scope of ESR, no notification is required to be filed. Next question, Mr. Lewis as well. AMCA is prepared to fulfill all the legal requests. I don't believe I understand the question, but if you mean that to assist you with the implementation of these regulations, that yes, AMC provides the services to assist you with it, and you can contact our team for further information on this. Next question, Mr. Omar. I was not in from the beginning, but does everything you mentioned to free zone companies not dealing with local customers as well? I don't believe any of these regulations make are have a concern free zones dealing with the mainland or not. These are regulatory compliance, and it does not really differentiate between free zone or mainland company. It depends on the scope of your activities, whether they are falling within these regulations or not. For example, GoAML, if your trade license activities are falling within the AML regulations in UAE, whether you are a free zone company or a mainland company, you have to comply with its regulations, and the same applies to other two as well. To add on to this one, even for offshore companies, ESR is applicable. So even if an offshore company is falling within the relevant activity, then they have to comply with the ESR notification, and even if report is required. The next question is from Miss Elena. By which criteria you can identify UBO if he is not in the higher management or owning any shares? Can you provide any examples? We The UBO, basically ultimate beneficial owner, is identified. The first criteria, like you are also mentioning, the shares. So owning 25% or more shares. Then the control is also seen. If the control of more than 25%, the voting rights, the rights to appoint the board members of a company, or to have indirect or direct control over the entity, makes you a UBO. So even if the person is, if you are not able to identify any individual having the control or ownership by means of shareholding, then you have to check who is the controlling person, individual who is controlling the entity. If even that is not identified, then only the last result is to take the higher management of that entity. If you need any specific guidance for this one, we also have the service of helping the entities identify their UPO, and you can contact our team on the details given on the screen right now. Next question is from Ms. Madel. How to submit GoAML for real estate? Currently, we are screening the clients and onboarding them. So, by submitting GoML, I believe you're talking about the REAR report, which is applicable to real estate agents and brokers right now, and that can be submitted to GoML portal itself. If you need any further guidance of how to prepare it and how to submit it, you can contact our team on the information given on the screen. Coming on to the next question, Mr. Sean. Recently, the FTA VAT issued a fine for not informing them within a time frame when there was a chance change in shareholding. What is the time frame for FTA VAT? First thing to clear you, it's not related to VAT. It's related to UBO. So all the fines and penalties issued by authorities are mostly intimated by FTA. So it does not mean that it came to you because of the VAT registration. It came to you only because you were not able to amend your UBO in time or inform the authorities regarding amendment in it. So the time frame is within 15 days of any changes in UBO. You need to inform the licensing authority of your company. The next question is from Miss Elena. How the 25% ownership of the shares can be indirect. Please explain more how technically holding company is earning its profit. I don't believe I understand the second part of the question, but the first part you're saying how the 25% ownership of the shares can be indirect. I think you're saying how to calculate the indirect tax or the shareholding of 25%. Like I said, if you need detail of how to identify and how to calculate the percentage, we can assist you. Our team can assist you because it's a lengthy topic. I don't believe I will be able to explain without any visuals to the attendees right now. But the basic concept is to check the ownership and control. So if you need any further guidance, you can contact our team on the details given on the screen. If a registered company in UAE imports services or goods and then exports them, it is not subject to submitting the ESR report, right? See, like I said earlier, the information is not enough for us to identify whether you will fall within the relevant activities of ESR because the main criteria of ESR is not like VAT. We are not checking the movement of goods, and the main factors we are checking is the activity done by the company to perform this for certain transaction. So we need to assess the activity more by taking more information from you. You can contact the team from the details given on the screen, so we can assist you further in defining whether you fall within the ESR report criteria or not. Miss Vanitha is asking who has to report for UBO. All the companies except the ones who are exempt by the UBO regulations have to report their UBO to their licensing authority within time frame. If you've already done it, then if there's any changes, then within the 15 days of having any changes, you need to report it again. Miss Madil is asking, does real estate need to submit ESR report? Again, real estate is just a trade license activity you're telling me. So we need more information to assess whether you fall within the relevant activities of the ESR or not. So the 9 activities explained by Ms. Kurt earlier in the presentation, these are activities not on the trade license, but these need to be studied in detail to know if you are in relevant activity or not, because these are the actions done by the entity, not by the legal documents of the entity. So nobody can tell you whether you fall within ESR or not by just looking at your trade license or by just the name of the activity you do for your business. So this information is not enough for us to give an assessment to you right now. I hope the questions were clear to you. If you need any further guidance for dealing with these regulatory compliance services, you can contact our team for further guidance and assistance. So we have another question from Miss Elena. How to identify the activities of holding company? So the basic definition of holding company is whether the company, the entity we're talking about, is only holding the shares, first of all, and secondly, no other income is earned by the entity. So these are the two conditions for falling within the holding company business, and we need to check whether what kind of activity is done by the entity, because if you don't meet any one of the criteria, it will make you fall out of this activity automatically. I hope this answers your question.
So I think that's it. There's no more questions that is being sent right now. So we'll just formally wrap up the webinar by this time. So we hope we're able to clear out the concepts of this regulatory compliance to you guys, and hope to see you guys next week on our upcoming webinar.